Good evening, everybody. Thank you for attending our third annual forum hosted by our Lincoln High School Student Senate. My name is Ellie Reed. I'm the senior class president here at Lincoln, and I'm also the student representative serving on the school board. Just a few things before we start. I ask that you all silence your cell phones, please, so we're not interrupted during our forum. If you have to use the restroom, they're located down in the lobby, down those stairs. We have a table set up right by the cameras over there. It has no cards and pens. You can ask your audience questions on there, and then after our student questions, we will read through as many as we can. Make sure that when you do ask your questions that they are actual questions and are not directed at any specific candidate so that all of our candidates are able to answer. Please maintain decorum in the audience. Any disruption, including speaking over candidates or the moderator, is grounds for potential removal. So we will start with our opening statements from our candidates. They have each prepared a 1-minute opening statement for today, and we will start with Lisa.
Hi, thank you again for this opportunity. I am Lisa Krieger. I'm a parent to 2 amazing boys with special needs here in our ISD district. When my son was in 5K, I observed several red flags regarding adherence to my son's individual education plan, or otherwise known as his IEP. I feel the district failed my son back then, and this is what drove me to be heavily involved in our community. I have been consistently involved with our FPSD school board proceedings for over 5 years now. I have learned so much by attending these meetings, and I wish more parents could find the time to get involved, because when you know more, you can do more, including the ability to better advocate for your children at an administration level. This involvement can cause a ripple effect for positive changes in our entire community. I would never want any other family to experience the heartbreak of what my son went through. When things like this happen, it's up to us to turn such negative experiences into positive. In time, I brought about positive changes for not only my family, but many others. I began actively building valuable avenues for parents to network with each other and get involved. I was instrumental. Thank you.
Good evening. Thank you for coming this evening, and more importantly, thank you for being a voter, those of you who are of voting age, and those of you who aren't. I appreciate that you come and learn the process tonight. My name is Mary Lofi Blonick. I'm recently retired after 33 years as an educator. I began as a teacher, a middle school teacher, and then was a vice principal for 12 years, and then moved to central office, where I was a curriculum director for 12 years, and then human resources director for 4 years. I'm very excited to be running for office, to give back to the community, and really be part of the community. I'm really proud tonight I have my husband here with me, and the two of us are both on the ballot on Tuesday. He's running as the town chair for the town of Manitowoc, the only one on the ballot, so I think he's going to win. But we're very, very much being part of service and giving back to the community. So excited for this opportunity.
Hi, I'm Ann Wilson. As a Lincoln High graduate, I am deeply grateful for the opportunities I had in our schools, both academically and through extracurriculars. My mother passed when I was 8, and the village that helped raise me were 4 MPSD school teachers, 2 elementary and 2 high school. My passion for students, helping students and teachers comes from them. These experiences help shape who I am today, and now I hope to give back to our community by ensuring that our students have similar opportunities to learn, grow, and succeed. As an adult STEM educator in the private sector, I see firsthand the vital need for qualified, passionate professionals who can drive the future of our community. I am committed to fostering an atmosphere where students can thrive at a clean, safe, well-maintained, and positive learning environment. My goal is to support students and educators to build pathways to success. I look forward to listening to and learning from the community, including parents, teachers, students, and local leaders. I hope to use data, research, and expert input to guide decisions. I support strong relationships in the district that show respect and dignity for all individuals.
Good evening. My name is David Bowman. Thank you very much for this opportunity to meet with you and hear some questions and give some answers. I taught here at Lincoln for 22 years. Before that, I taught in Janesville for 10 and a half. Both of my children graduated from this school, this institution here. The reason I moved here in the first place was because I was aware of the excellent tradition of the music program. When I got here, I saw the strength of the art program, where people are getting their art taken to the Capitol and places like that. We had the IB program. We have a great AP program. And I hear in our community a bad name about our school. And I don't want to see that continue. I believe it's our civic responsibility to build the best school system on the lakeshore that we can possibly have with the resources that we have. I look forward to working with students, teachers, and parents, administration, and the rest of the board to make sure that that happens. Thank you.
Thank you, candidates. We will now move on to our student questions. Just a reminder, though, that audience questions can be submitted on the sheets of paper right in the middle over there. So the candidates were given 2 questions from the students to prepare for in advance. The first question reads, the infrastructure of the buildings in the district has been a hot topic lately. What would your plan be for the next 5, 10, 15, and even 20 years? Please consider cost, safety, and extra amenities that could make school better for students and attract new families for the district. We will have Mary start this time.
This is a great question from the students, and one of the most rewarding activities that I took part of in my 33 years was helping to pass a referendum and build a new middle school in Sheboygan Falls. We opened in 2018. And really the architects that we worked with said the sky's the limit. Be creative. We worked hard to make sure that it was a space for collaboration, for students to collaborate, for staff to collaborate, that it was a community space, and that it was truly a modern building. So when I come to schools like this in Washington and Wilson, it's kind of hard for me to say, gosh darn it, why don't the students here in Manitowoc have that same kind of exciting building? I also learned from the architects that I worked with that typically when you build a school, when it was built in the 1920s, this one, you built that school hoping it would last 75 years. If you took really good care of it, it would last 100. So we're over 100 years at Lincoln High School. 2 of our middle schools are approaching 100, and 3 of our elementaries, I believe, are in their 70s. So the next school board, whoever that is going to have some tough decisions to make about those old schools and upkeep. I think it will be important for the board to take a look at that Fund 46 and what their capital improvement project is, and hopefully have the same results that we did in Sheboygan Falls, where enrollment went up, students and families felt more engaged in schools, and there was just this pride that students and families had in the building, and much less vandalism took place as a result, and much more engagement. Thank you.
Our infrastructure plan can be effective if it balances cost, safety, and enhances our student experiences. I support community buy-in and involvement in these decisions. The youngest of our schools is turning 30, and one of our portions literally had bricks crumbling recently. We are facing challenging decisions, to say the very least. What if we turn the corner and incrementally look ahead instead of in the rearview mirror? I look forward to learning from our facilities advisory committees, both staff and community. Forward-looking and visionary ideas can help our students learn and grow for the years to come. Intermediate and midterm actions could include the items listed on the MPSD critical maintenance plan. Keeping that critical maintenance as the focus in the shorter terms assures we're pursuing what must be maintained for a safe learning environment that's conducive to learning. Potential partnerships with our local contractors and businesses, including those who support youth apprenticeship programs, show pride in workmanship and ownership of our essential infrastructure needs. What does the next generation of K-12 infrastructure look like? We have some wonderful amenities here at Lincoln, including this beautiful auditorium and the JFK Fieldhouse. We may not know exactly what the future holds, so flexibility and change readiness are important considerations. This includes brick and mortar, as well as technological adaptability, like STEAM, AI, robotics, and blended teaching methods. Let's continue to foster the next generation of collaborative partnerships. Our goal is to continue to keep pace with the world around us and educate the next generation of community decision makers by focusing We can provide amenities that will enrich students' lives and make the district more attractive to families. The final goal is to create a dynamic and future-ready educational environment that prepares students for the opportunities of tomorrow while maintaining a strong and supportive community.
100 years ago, the school board made a decision to build this school, and they said that it needs to be a beacon of education on the lakeshore, just as a lighthouse is to ships on the waters. It was a 4-3 vote to build the iconic tower. They saw a future of education that wanted to be the best. They did it within their means. That is the way we have to go. We have a plan, not a plan, but a guide that they've talked about, where it talks about what should be happening in the buildings and to get them up to a usable plan. But is that where we're headed when we're looking at a 22nd century education? What do perfect rooms look like in that scenario? We don't know that answer yet. Our job will be to work with the community, to work with our businesses in town, as Dan mentioned. How do we get them to buy in? Because they also are receiving the product of what we are putting out as a school district. We need to involve businesses. We need to involve parents so that they can understand the complexity of how you fund things like this. I do think, I was talking with a friend who has kids that go to Roncalli, and she is 100% behind the referendum for our school, because she said no matter what kind of other smaller schools we have, the thing that sells a community is their public school system. And we need to invest in that in a way that will invite people to say, you know, I think we're going to go there.
This all depends on whether or not our friends and neighbors vote to pass the referendum on April 1st. This is a challenging, expensive, and necessitated undertaking that could and should have been offset with much more responsible budgeting in the last decade. If it passes, I would bring transparency and promote a common ground understanding effort throughout the district so that our governing principles and budgetary allocations are observable, and a community-based system of checks and balances ensures we do not falter so irresponsibly again. I would then follow through with everything the present board has requested to initiate the $25 million 2025 referendum. The trust taxpayers must have in our elected officials is paramount. It is incredibly important to communicate how and when this money was spent on any and all initiatives set forward by our school board. I would also comb through everything and look for ways to save costs. Our community deserves the utmost level of diligence as the taxpayers paying for these much-needed infrastructure updates. I would then advocate for selling the administration building. This was already recommended during the last school year. Selling the admin building would benefit our entire district in multiple ways. In addition to the budgetary considerations, as having our administrative staff actually present in our school facilities would increase person awareness and timeliness as the necessitated concerns, including actionable behavioral issues, are then just down the hall. Looking forward and in hopes of mitigating future fiscal irresponsibility, I would suggest taking these infrastructure realities much more seriously with an annual slush fund derived from the average annual cost of mandated repairs as funds become available through necessitated belt tightening. If we want to bring families into our community, it starts with our youth. Once we take care of educational foundations while ensuring availability and safety in our educational facilities, only then we can afford literally to expand our focuses responsibly.
Thank you. This is just the last reminder. If you'd like to submit an audience question, please write it down, and we will be collecting those in just a few short minutes, so make sure you do that now. The second question that we gave the board for the candidates in advance was, majority of the students enrolled in MPSD can't vote, but the school board makes decisions that greatly affect us all. If students throughout the district were able to vote, how would you pitch yourself to us? Please try not to relate your answer to how you pitch yourself to our parents and the community. We'll start with Dan.
You, the students of Manitowoc Public Schools, are the future of our community. You have the potential to shape our world for the better. If elected, I focus on how decisions made by the school board directly impact your day-to-day lives, experiences, opportunities at school and in the future. As your representative, I would like to prioritize your needs and interests. You are the decision makers, builders, bankers, AI professionals, artists, healthcare workers, engineers, pioneers in careers we have not even dreamed of. You have the potential to dream big and achieve bigger. Continue in your relentless pursuit of your dreams with encouragement from classmates, families, teachers, coaches, guidance counselors, and all those in your support network. I would like to ensure that we work together to enhance your learning experience, whether it's updated technology tools, elective classes, hands-on learning experiences that prepare you for the future. I'm running to help make sure that your voice is heard in a system that directly impacts you. If we're going to make a difference, it starts with ensuring that we are all part of the conversation. I believe that students who believe they belong can flourish if we embrace various interests and backgrounds. Students who feel empowered to take leadership roles in clubs, student government, sports, school projects, can all have a say in shaping our future and our schools. I aspire to support your dreams and future contributions to our society by continuing to encourage your sparks of creativity and ingenuity, one step at a time, one day at a time. The path before you may not always be a straight one. If your dreams change, that's okay too. Adjust your course and sail in a new direction. I truly hope that someday you think back on your education with fondness and are eager to share your inspiration with the next generation of learners. You are our future, and now is the time to pursue your dreams. In the words of Dr. Seuss, "Oh, the places you'll go."
I think there are three things that we really need to focus on, when looking at the education of our students. And I say it's the way Lincoln is actually designed. If you look at Lincoln from left to right, from the front of the building, you see the arts area, then you see the academic area, then you see the athletic area, or, if you would like to call it this way, mind, body, and spirit. If we're not educating all three of those areas equally, students don't feel connected to the world, to each other, to the life that they could have. So now, what does that look like? That means we have to see the individuals that come into our room. We have to see the individuals as they are, where they are, whatever their story is, and then get them to understand that they are part of something bigger than themselves. We do that by giving them some autonomy and choice. I've been hearing about middle schoolers who have no more choices about electives. That's something that Ellie brought up at the board a couple months ago, I think. I hear about kids not reading books that are interesting to them. I worry about that. They need to have some autonomy that is appropriate for their age. I also think that they need to feel some competency. Like, we should be pushing them, but they always have to know that what they're doing is attainable. So we have to set the bar, not necessarily exactly what standardized testing tells us we should be doing, because sometimes standardized testing is testing what a fifth grader should know when they're in fourth grade. That makes no sense for me. So we have the autonomy, competency, and connection. When you have those three things happening for students and people, they can excel.
I understand how frustrating it can be when you feel like you're not being heard, but trust me, you do have a voice and you do have my attention. If at any time you or any other concerned members of the student body have any suggestions, I will be more than happy to present your voice at our school board meetings, whether I am elected or not. You can choose to share your name or you can remain anonymous. I am here to represent each and every one of you, right alongside my own children. I have always encouraged my own children to come to me with suggestions or concerns. They too have shared their concerns and suggestions, giving me the opportunity to bring their input to pertinent staff, administration, and our school board, and I'm very proud of them for doing so. I would also love to see an additional avenue for your voices to be heard by your school board. Suggestion boxes can be available in a central location in each facility and an inclusive effort to give each concerned student a direct line to administration. Sometimes as adults, we can get so busy with adult things that we overlook the things that used to matter to us as students. Student involvement can be a substantial building block for the future success of our students and community alike.
I'm going to echo some of what's been said already, the importance of student voice, but also student choice, and really hearing what students have to say. At a recent board meeting, more than one board meeting, the board discussed boundary change related to a student who was having a great deal of success in our schools. And that was a really tough decision for our board, but ultimately they said we got to do what's best for kids. And that's going to be important for the board because they have some tough decisions going forward to really think about what is best for kids and how can we make this work and still be fiscally responsible. At another board meeting recently, there was a discussion about how to schedule the last day of school. And the board spent a lot of time talking about what we should do with teachers and what we should do with students. And then your representative, Ellie, spoke up and said, actually, you guys, that last day of school is finals. So the high school isn't really impacted like the rest of the district. And I was thankful the board listened to that because she provided some pretty good input at a board meeting, which isn't easy for a student to do. And that helped the board make a good decision about that last day of school. And again, really putting students first and thinking about what made the most sense for them.
Thank you, guys. We are now going to move on to some of our audience questions. If you have a question that comes up while I'm reading, you can still submit up, and we will check the box continuously and bring them up here. So the candidates will, again, have the same amount of time that they have for the student questions, which is 2 minutes. So our first question is, any specifics on how you would alleviate the tax burden on the aging Manitowoc taxpayer? We'll start with Mr. Bowling.
Right now, that referendum that we have is not going to be changing your tax burden because we have swallowed some of those costs through savings with teachers and other areas that we are holding back some of our money. Now, one of the issues that we also have to understand is the way that money comes from the state is a challenge for our district because they put spending caps back in 1994, and we were one of the lowest of the top 50 size schools in the state. We were spending either 49th or 50th at that time. So we've been stuck at a very, very low rate of reimbursement from the state. We've also, in the past couple of years, just in special ed, we have been shortchanged by what the state legislature said they would be sending to us by as much as $3 million. One of the things that I would like to do is, and this is a problem that's happening across the state, unless you're one of the very high spending, wealthy school districts who now are starting to have that same kind of problem as we are. This is where I would like us to get together some sort of group of board members from our area and start really talking with our state legislative people and see what we can do to get the state to start funding us the way that they said that they would. That being said, education is expensive. There it is. We can't apologize for that. But we do understand that we have to live within our means. I needed a new car a couple weeks ago. That means we don't go out to eat, right? We've made cuts within our school system already. We're going to have to look to the future and try to see what we can do in a responsible way to fund what we need.
I also agree with David I was actually at the Capitol last week advocating for the exact same thing to increase the budget given to our special needs families for the school district because right now they're only getting about 32% covered. And years ago, they had suggested that would be covered 60%, which would greatly reduce the burden on our school districts, so we don't have to scramble as much to find the money to, go around. So I think that's very huge, and I will continue to advocate. I think that's just something easier to try to work together and lobby together and reach out to our legislators. I've got a couple friends that actually started a campaign, Learning in My Shoes campaign, where they're collecting letters of families touched by special education to deliver to the legislators and along with her shoes to let the legislators know what it is like for us on a day-to-day basis. It's not easy, and I just think if we can get more funding through the government like it was promised, it could just help so many, open up so many more possibilities for all of us in the school district and all our kids. Thank you.
I would agree with the other two candidates. We have a problem with the way schools are funded in the state. And we should be speaking up about that. But it's difficult to change what's going on at the state level. I think here in Manitowoc, our school board recently cut for next year about $2 million in staffing. I would, as a school board, ask to go back to that piece because staffing is the biggest part of the budget. When you start looking at other areas of the budget, you tend to nickel and dime, and it's really in the staffing portion where you get the biggest savings. There's for surely some other areas as well that we need to be looked at. I guess I would ask whoever asked that question, and I know that's a question that's out there with a lot of our taxpayers, to reframe your thinking about a tax burden and reframe your thinking to a tax payment that's going to support the future. These kids that are sitting in front of us and the ones all the way down to 4K, early childhood, are worth investing in. They're going to be taking care of us. They're going to be running our cities, our government, our manufacturing, and everything that makes Manitowoc successful. And if we reframe some of that to, how can I invest in those kids? I think it's a little different on how we spend money. I know that 70% of our taxpayers don't have children in school, and it's hard to keep going to them and asking for money. But I think we need to build that community trust to say, we're making some tough decisions, and we need some financial support to do that. Thank you.
I think we all experienced the increase in taxes on our property tax bills, so we're all feeling a little bit of that pain. However, we look at our schools and we talked about those crumbling buildings. In the short term, that $25 million referendum is not going to increase the tax levy. The existing school board committed to that and had very good dialogue and discussions on that. So I would definitely make sure we vote yes for that referendum to ensure we at least have the bare minimum for our schools right now. The next thing, potential benchmarking. What other schools in our area are in the same situation? Who's doing it right? Let's take a look at some areas we have come up with creative ideas. Look outside the box, out of our own district. There's got to be other districts that are facing the same challenges that are being successful. Those partnerships that I mentioned, partnerships with our local businesses, with our local contractors, building those bridges, the apprenticeships, having that community involvement in the discussion, using the recommendations from the advisory committees to help build on it. Because they're looking at this. They're looking at, we do have declining enrollment. We do have fewer students coming into the district. How can we attract and retain? What can set us apart? What can make us a better district, more appealing for people to come to our area? So continuing to work with those partnerships. We also, I encourage normalizing our spending and making it more predictable. So if we are ensuring with the help of our budget gurus, helping us as a board and as a community, saying, okay, what spending incrementally do we need to do? We do have some very tough decisions ahead of us. We do have declining enrollment. Those schools were built in the baby boom generation. We haven't seen that baby boom. So with that said, those difficult decisions are going to need to be made, and that might include redistricting or even closing schools. Thank you.
All right, thank you. So our next question kind of goes along with what Ann just mentioned. With continuing declining enrollment and need to cut costs, what are your thoughts on closing schools and consolidating? We'll start with Lisa.
I think starting with the admin building would be a good first start, and then looking at our numbers and seeing what's the most fiscal way of, if we do have to close schools down to less enrollment, which would be the most practical use of that, and also making sure that if we are thinking about closing a school or doing something with the administration building, to make sure that we're not wasting money, putting more money into that building if we know that we're going to be potentially, doing something different with it or selling it. I think it's going to be really important to see what the advisory committee comes back with as what they would suggest as well. I always believe there's power in numbers, and we can always learn from each other. So just being able to keep an open mind, work together. Yes, it's not going to be an easy decision, whatever way the school board, would happen to have to go down. But I just think keeping an open mind and trying to be creative and find ways to make the best thing out of a bad situation is. Thank you.
I would agree. As I said, there's tough decisions ahead. I don't know how the district can move forward without closing some of our schools. And that's going to be tough for neighborhoods. It's going to be tough for families that are used to being able to walk to school, but it's going to have to happen. I went through that process when I worked in Green Bay. The first time through, it wasn't handled completely well. The second time through, the community was given much more input and voice, and the district was able to come to some win-win solutions. And I think Manitowoc can follow from some of that learning and have to face those tough decisions. And again, it's going to be hard to have everybody happy, but it's important that you get that input and make some good decisions. And as I said in my previous answer, really take those students and put them first and say what's best for our kids here in Manitowoc.
So the staff and community advisory committees are going to be our first place to work. They're spending once a month collaborating, generating ideas. So seeing what and we have some experts on there. I've seen some of the posts and the pictures. There's builders, there's migrant contractors, there's a lot of educated and well-informed and strong community members and staff members that are looking into this. So that would be our first place to look. We want to make sure that we have an informed and collaborative decision to make sure that we're reaching consensus on these decisions. And it's going to have to be stepwise. Can't change overnight. So those ideas that might not be very palatable or people might not like, if they've had some time to think about them, generate questions, and if we can, as a board, as a community, make sure that we come up with valid answers. Okay, maybe this wasn't the best thing. Maybe we need to regroup. So we've got to look ahead. The previous question asked, what do we do 5, 10, 15, 20 years from now? So every step along the way, we have to consider that. And again, like you said, Mary, what's best for our students? What's going to be best for that next generation of students?
To realize that we don't have all the answers is step number one. We have to listen to the community. We have to listen to the experts in the room. They are experts for a reason. And we have to rely on them and make our decision as a group in communication with everybody involved. I do see, when we moved here, there was a huge, oh, you live on the south side? Is that, as like represent, it's actually the west side? I don't know. And then I started hearing the culture of our community. And at that time, there was also a very, very strong pecking order of which school you should send your kid to. That is starting to go away in our community. And I think that's better for us. Because it's not my school, it's not her school, it's our school. I don't care if your kid goes to Madison or Franklin. I want their experience to be great. I think that if we do go to fewer schools, it would allow us to streamline some of our services. It would create opportunities that aren't there at all of the schools right now, just from population sizes. Now, I have a daughter who's teaching in an elementary school, 1 of 5 in her school district. They're the second smallest, and they have 900 kids. That's crazy, right? So I think we have to listen to what the people are saying. I love the idea of a neighborhood school, but if we could see that their neighborhood is just as important as my neighborhood, then I think we're on the right track. Now we're also going to have to figure out how to structure our debt through those 5, 10, 15, 25 years so that we can keep I like what you said, the investment at a sustainable level. But that's all the way that you structure and the order that you do everything. So, right now at a time.
All right, thank you. Our next question is, as a parent of a young child, school violence is a real fear. What are your thoughts on metal detectors in all buildings? We'll start with Mary.
Thank you for that question. So metal detectors at each building. I think if we could afford them, we'd have them in every single entrance. I don't know that that's a completely affordable solution. And I think no matter what you put in place, the bad guys or bad girls always find a way around that. I've had some experience in safety training. I was trained out in Emmitsburg, Maryland, and have some ideas I would love to share, but I don't have enough time to do that. I can't say enough about paying attention to kids. Research and data shows that 4 out of 5 school shootings were known about before they happened. 4 out of 5 could have been avoided if students or families or somebody came forward. And to me, that's where the prevention should be focused. A metal detector makes us feel safer, and it's going to catch some people, but ultimately, it's about paying attention to kids, to students, and seeing what they need, and taking care of the mental health of those who are doing unsafe things in our schools. So a great idea, but I don't think it's the ultimate solution.
So the question started with school bias in schools. School violence. Oh, school violence. Thank you. Thank you. Clarification. Okay, school violence. Okay, so with that said, I think the biggest key is for students, teachers, parents, everybody feel empowered if they see something to say something. There was another school in the area that had a threat. I'm going to shoot up this school. That was a real threat in the community. So by somebody saying something, after 110 people liked that post, it was 100 and something that liked that post, I want student number 1 to say, oh my goodness, maybe I should go tell my parent. Maybe I should tell my teacher, guidance counselor. This student might need some help. So that's really, I think, getting down, we talked about the mental health issues, making sure that people feel that they have someone they can trust, someone they can go to. I come from an industry where I did walk through a metal detector every day. If that's what it comes to, and that's what we can afford, then that's what we do.
Metal detectors are like taking aspirin after you have a headache from sitting like this for an entire day. It's not going to solve the problem. We need to see the students who are coming into our buildings. We need to figure out ways to help them become connected to our community. Because when you're connected to the community, you don't generally do things like that, right? I agree. I think if we could spend our resources to help kids as they enter the educational system, so that they're feeling that connection, they're feeling that competency, they're feeling the excitement of learning, that will help them. But that's going to require much more mental health professionals within a school setting. That's going to require social workers within a school setting. We have kids that are coming in whose basic needs are not getting met. Not because their parents are lazy necessarily. A lot of the parents are working poor. Okay? And what can we do to help them see that there is a path forward? Because people who act like that see no path forward. And just a small story about knowing your student. I had a student that I had in middle school, and then I switched to a high school. This was in Janesville. And all of a sudden I heard this commotion outside my room, and she is screaming, and I walked outside from my room. She's screaming at somebody, and I hadn't seen her in a year and a half. And it's like, Audra, what's going on? And you could just hear go. Someone knew who she was. And that totally changed the temperature of her conversation with 4 other people. And I know our staff works to know our students as best they can. So that is goal number 1, know the students.
I agree with all of you. I think it's a good idea and thought, but in reality, I think spending our money and time watching our students and increasing mental health services. I know one of the mental health providers that is in the school is moving on, so I'm hoping that they will be replacing her, but mental health is at an all-time high crisis, and we need to keep an eye on our kids. Like they said too, if a student sees something, to say something and let an adult know. So yes, I agree with all of that. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Our next question is, what are your thoughts as to how members of the Board of Education should have to watch what they're posting on social media and be held accountable for their posts? Those are Ann.
Well, I believe there's policies for respect and dignity for treating each other as board members, to our staff, to our students, to each other, to the parents. So those policies, no matter how they're written, respect and dignity prevails. Sometimes we feel like we can hide behind social media posts, that people can't see us, so we can just throw things out there. I think professionalism, no matter where you are, is important. We've got to make sure that we're acting as board members in a manner that we would like to be treated. I don't like to get yelled at, or screamed at, or swore at. And I don't think anybody else does either. So really, yes, we're going to have heated discussions. We're going to have professional differences of opinion that are going to take some pretty hard discussions. And there might even be some elevated voices there. But we have to say, are you talking to the person right in front of you? Think about it when you're writing a post. Am I talking to this person in front of me? Some of the things I'm seeing on social media, I'm just going to say right out loud, I was completely naive coming into this, hoping to help students, help kids, giving back to the community, getting slammed left and right. I was very naive, and I'm not kidding, left and right. There was the extremes are exactly that. And I truly believe in my heart of hearts that the majority of us just want to do the right things for our kids, for our families, for our community, and if we could just bring that back, respect and dignity in all forms of communication, just like our policies say.
Provided we're all agreeing on the same facts, We can interpret how to fix those problems, but we can't do it by attacking the other person. We can talk about ideas. We can challenge another person's ideas. We can try to be reflective. One of the things that I try to be is eternally curious. Like, I want to know why someone is thinking what they're thinking. I don't blame them for thinking what they're thinking. I want to know what the root cause of that is, so that I know how to say, oh, here's how we can actually come together on an idea. Now, that's played out in my life in all of my successful relationships, right? We have to maintain a communication with people, even if we don't agree with them. And I think, and I started seeing this stuff on my feed, and I originally said, if you do profanity, if you just attack another person, I will remove you. And I actually did that to a good friend of ours, who went after somebody else because it was stupid. Attack the idea. That's fine. That's what a debate is about. But we then have to come together to say, in spite of the fact that I don't know what happened, maybe we're getting rid of all elementary schools. You understand what I'm saying? But now we are presenting the front together. Parents do that with their kids all the time. Right? You make a decision and then it's the united front. And that's what the school board needs to do. Once that decision is made, then we're going to support that decision.
Yes, social media can be an ugly thing. It's got a lot of good, but the ugliness out there is really, really bad. I would definitely be all in favor of enforcing the policies that we have and to remind everybody to let's all be adults and treat each other with respect and kindness, no matter what side of the aisle you think somebody is or is not on. We are a community, and we will be stronger together if we work together and stop all the political games and stuff going back and forth on social media. Our children are be watching, and that's what I always, live each day as our children are watching what we're writing, what we're saying. I know years ago, it's gotten a lot better at board meetings. The behavior between some board members was, disgraceful. Swearing and just attacking one another instead of acting like an adult and saying, here's how I feel, and instead of attacking one another, just working together and keeping the center focus on what's best for our students, what's best for our community, and stop the social media nightmare. Thank you.
Thank you for that question regarding social media. We have both current and former board members who have been in violation of board policy. My suggestion going forward, if I'm on the board, is that our board takes some training in how to behave at a board meeting, but also out there in the community, whether that's social media, in a church group, in a community group, at the backyard barbecue. You need to be presenting our school district in a positive light. You keep things that should be backstage, and as a board work through that together. But you're not out there publicly putting down our schools, and again, violating the board policy, which is what's been going on. And leadership not willing to call that out. If you accept that poor quality, you're going to get that poor quality. My background in human resources will not allow that if I'm elected to the board. I will, as I said, expect that our board go through some training and that we consistently present ourselves ethically and professionally in front of the public. We currently have a board member who likes to present that it's his First Amendment right. That's not true, folks. When you're presenting as a board member, your First Amendment rights take a back seat to the ethics that you agreed to as a board member. What's going on right now is not acceptable, But more importantly, it's not a good role model for our students, and it needs to stop.
Thank you, guys. We'll have our last audience question then before closing statements. The question reads, how would you address the behavior problems in the district currently? We'll start with Mr. Bowman.
Once again, I think that's about knowing the students, creating relationships with them, and communication, and the connection piece. Now, there's also restorative justice practices. I know that we've talked about those a little bit. I don't know if they're completely implemented in here, but some people have the idea that restorative justice is like you sit down and talk with them and everything is good. No, there's actual punitive things that can happen. And I think that as we look around in other districts, we discovered that a lot of places have discipline issues as well. And this is one of the top problems in our schools right now across the nation. I think it's a matter of parent, student, administration, teacher working together to understand when a person or a kid steps out of line, what is the real consequence to what they did, how do they make amends for that, and how do they move forward in a repaired relationship. And I think this again is also very tied into mental health, it's tied into social structures, it's tied into how the kids are feeling connected or disconnected from their community. And the more we can get them to feel that they're a part of something bigger than themselves, the easier it will be for them to understand how to regulate within a classroom.
Behavior as a parent, I've been really concerned for years now. Years ago when we started the ad hoc advisory committee for behavior, that was on it from the start. We would meet weekly to discuss and brainstorm. We developed a code of conduct and established that in all our school districts with community leaders on our board or on our advisory committee along with staff and some parents who are involved with it as well. I just think it's so important to involve all the stakeholders, bring in the parents, have us all work together and try to solve this problem, collaboratively. I would really like to see the ad hoc behavior advisory committee reestablished. I just think with having it more out in the open, parents, staff working together, trying to brainstorm. Also, if a student is having behaviors, as a special needs mom, I know behavior is communication, and what is that child or student trying to tell us? We can use a functional behavior assessment. I know they just changed the word for a child that's not with an IEP, an individual education plan. So using the tools that we already have in our toolbox is going to be so important, and just keeping that focus on working together and trying to solve this together, because we need to keep all our staff and our students safe and give them the best education possible. Thank you.
We know that across the country since COVID, there has been a decline in student behavior. That's not unique to Manitowoc. I appreciate Lisa bringing up that ad hoc committee. My understanding, and I may be wrong, but my understanding, I heard from principals that they were not involved in that ad hoc committee. And ultimately, the behavior issues at a school, that's where the buck stops with our principals and assistant principals. So I agree it's time to bring that group back together and involve those administrators and ultimately teachers in improving behaviors in our school. As a school board member, I think it's important from a governance point of view that the school board expects that of the superintendent and the administrative team, and that we see some improvement in behaviors. Now, it's easy for me to get up here and say that. I'm not the boots on the ground teacher dealing with that every day. And I know it's tough. I agree with Lisa, kids misbehave because they're trying to often communicate something. But similar to my previous answer, when we allow that and we permit it, the saying goes, when we permit it, we promote it. When we're not stopping some of those student behaviors and getting on top of that, we're going to continue to have problems. And I feel like, based on a previous conversation at a board meeting, there's a lot of admiring of that problem, but not really getting to solutions. And I think as a school board, that board needs to hold administration accountable to making those improvements. We've even had staff leave the district because of that frustration with student behavior. And it's time to say to the administration, what are you going to do? We need to see a plan presented to us, and we need to see an improvement in behavior data.
I also agree with the ad hoc behavioral advisory committee that was discussed. Getting a collaborative group together to talk about is a first start. What are the ideas? What have other districts seen? What have other groups done to address it? Because that is the issue. Look at I have family in Green Bay, so a school psychologist, experiencing the same things. So it's not unique to our district. It's better in other areas and worse in others. It is the million-dollar question. I think back to my son. He had challenges learning after schools. Didn't want to spend the time after work. We learned things from the guidance counselors, belly breathing. Some of those challenges that I tend to take it and stop, make sure everybody breathe. Let's take it down a notch. Let's de-escalate. What can we do to resolve it? So that goes by each grade level and each person. Every person is unique. Everyone is different and handles stress differently. So we've got to look at how what's going to work for one person might not work for another. So looking at from a group ad hoc advisory committee, what can we see works the best? I received a book from a very special person in my life, one of those teachers, Teaching with Love and Logic. So how can we work through some of those behavioral challenges with love and logic?
All right, thank you guys. We'll now move on to our closing statements. Each candidate was able to prepare a 1-minute closing statement. We'll start with Lisa.
Thank you. My involvement and dedication in the last 5 years, knowledge of district's procedures, coupled with the countless number of meetings I have attended, will be an asset if given the privilege of being elected. I brought about positive changes for not only my own family, but many others. I became actively building viable avenues for parents to network with each other and get involved. I was instrumental in the establishment of our MPSD Parents and Students with IEPs Advisory Committee. I am our MPSD District Family Engagement Liaison through Wisconsin Statewide Parents Educator Initiative, or called WISPE. I also assist and promote positive working relationships between family, student, staff, and community agencies. I already have established a network of staff, administration, and MPSD parents who continue to reach out throughout the many years as I advocate for not only my children, but for all children within our school district on various issues. It'd be a privilege and honor to represent our school board as an official member. Thank you.
As I stated when I started this evening, I do have 33 years in public education. As you can probably glean from me tonight, I have strong opinions. But I also know that I would be part of a learning organization. I'm very willing to learn from others, learn more about Manitowoc, and learn how we can take care of kids. It's time, folks, for a whole new type of leadership in Manitowoc. I'm excited that there's a turnover in the board, and I'm excited that we're seeking a new superintendent, whether that ends up being the interim superintendent or some other choice. I want that to be the most qualified candidate, and I think the future is bright for Manitowoc. I'm very excited to be part of that change. And also, as I previously stated tonight, please vote on Tuesday, and thank you for being a voter.
We truly are the sum of our experiences. I feel I have the potential to make a positive contribution to the community that helped raise me. Some unique skills and perspectives I bring. I worked in college for UWO Science Outreach, conducting hands-on science experiments with students and teachers K-12 grade levels throughout the state. It was actually the best job I ever had. Too bad it was only $6.15 an hour. I earned a master's degree in leadership and organizational behavior from Silver Lake College, technical instructor for over 14 years in the nuclear power industry, a former small business owner who collaborated with an advisory board. I've experienced in situations that require diplomatic consensus in small business, the chemical industry, and nuclear settings. I sincerely hope that you found my responses positive and forward-looking. I hope you feel as I do, that by fostering the future generations of learners, our community can continue to grow and thrive.
We are at a crossroads in education, not just in our community, but within our country. What does the next 100 years look like? How do we get there together so that people are feeling like they are connected? Throughout my career, I've worked with hundreds of students to create something that no one by themselves thought that they could do. I've worked on 60+ performances, from semi-professional to very, very unprofessional, where everybody came in with their own idea of what should happen, and we had to figure out ways to work together so that we could create the best product possible. Education is the most noble thing that we do in this country. It is the difference between where we are at as a nation and where a lot of other countries are. We can talk about test scores across the seas another time. It is an expensive endeavor, but it is an investment in who we are and who we see ourselves as becoming. So, thank you very much for your time. This was great.
Thank you, candidates, for coming, and thank you, everyone else, for coming as well. Please remember to vote, tell all your